Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into one of the most powerful and celebrated hymns in Hinduism, the Hanuman Chalisa. It's a poem of praise from the 16th century, but for millions of people it's so much more. It's a daily source of incredible strength and protection. Right from the get-go, the hymn starts with these words. They basically mean, after cleansing the mirror of my mind with the dust from my guru's lotus feet. It's this beautiful, traditional way of humbling yourself and asking for blessings before you even begin. It just immediately drops you into this spirit of profound devotion that really carries through the whole thing.
So, how are we going to break this all down? Simple. First, we'll look at what a chalisha even is. Then, we'll get to know its hero, Hanuman. We'll dig into where his strength comes from, see why the hymn is so important to believers. And then finally, we'll touch on why it's still such a powerful anthem today. All right, let's kick things off with the basics. Before we get into all the heroic deeds and everything, we gotta understand the text itself. So, what in the world is a chalisha?
Well, the name itself kind of gives you a clue. Hanuman is, of course, the deity being honored. And chalisa, that comes from the Hindi word chalis, which means 40. So the heart of the poem is these 40 really elegant four-line verses, or quatrains, that just sing the praises of Hanuman's virtues, his powers, and his devotion.
The person behind this masterpiece is the 16th century poet Saint Tulsi Das. And what I think is so cool is how he ends it. He doesn't sign off like, hey, look at this great poem I wrote. Instead, he just calls himself Tulsi Das, forever a servant of the Lord, asking for Hanuman to live in his heart. It frames the entire thing not just as a piece of writing, but as a pure, genuine act of devotion.
Okay, so we've got the what. Now let's get to the who. Because at the center of this hymn is one seriously mighty hero. Let's paint a picture of Hanuman.
The hymn doesn't waste any time. Right away, it paints this incredible picture. He's called an ocean of knowledge and virtue, someone who lights up all three worlds. He's the most loyal messenger of Lord Ram, has incomparable strength, and is known as the son of the wind god, Vayu. I mean, what an introduction.
And the Chalisa does this amazing job of contrasting his looks with his sheer power. On the one hand, he's got this brilliant golden-hued form, beautifully adorned. But on the other hand, his body is as strong as a thunderbolt. It's this incredible mix of beauty and raw, immense power that's just so central to who he is.
But here's the thing. His power isn't just about brute strength. The hymn talks about his ability to take on a subtle form, making himself super tiny. And he actually used this exact power to sneak into the heavily guarded city of Lanka to find Ram's wife, Sita, after she'd been kidnapped.
And then, in the very next moment, the text shows you the complete opposite. He can also take on a fearsome form, growing to an absolutely terrifying size. This is the version of him that destroyed demons and burned down the city of Lanka. It shows he can be both a quiet messenger and a terrifying warrior. Talk about range.
And the hymn just casually lists some of his most legendary feats. As a kid, he leaped thousands of miles into the sky and tried to swallow the sun because he thought it was a fruit. As an adult, he not only torched Lanka, but he literally lifted and carried an entire mountain full of special herbs just to save a life. So you see, these aren't just stories of being strong, they are tales of cosmic, reality-bending power.
So you have to ask, what's the fuel for this incredible mountain-lifting, sun-swallowing strength? And that brings us right to the heart of the Chalisa, his absolutely profound sense of devotion.
This one line from the text says it all. It says, he is always eager to do the work of Ram. Notice that word, eager. This isn't a chore for him. It's not a duty. It's his passion, his driving purpose. Every single thing he does, from the tiniest task to the most world-changing feat, is an act of service.
And this really shows you where that eagerness comes from. His strength isn't for showing off. The Hanuman Chalisa is crystal clear that all of his power flows from a heart that is just completely full of love. It says his heart is basically a permanent home for Ram, Sita, and Lakshman. He's the ultimate example of selfless devotion.
Now, this selfless power isn't just part of a story. For centuries, people have recited the Chalisa not just to praise Hanuman, but to actually call on his protection. So let's look at what this hymn is meant to do for the people who believe in it.
So, why has this one text been chanted day in and day out by millions of people for hundreds of years? What is it supposed to do? What specific effects or protections does the hymn itself promise to the people who recite it?
The verses are actually super specific about the benefits.
The text says that chanting Hanuman's name gets rid of ghosts and evil spirits, so fear can't touch you. It promises to remove all obstacles and pains, to heal what's wrong, and ultimately, to end the suffering of anyone who meditates on him. It's basically seen as a spiritual shield.
And it even gives a kind of formula for a specific result. There's a verse that says, if you recite the chalisha 100 times, you will be freed from all bondage and find great joy. So it adds this layer of real, tangible practice to the whole act of devotion.
And that brings us to our final stop. Why does this 16th century poem still hit so hard, still resonate so deeply, here in the 21st century?
Well, what's fascinating is that the chalisha itself claims to be timeless. It says, Hanuman's glory is sung across all 4 cosmic ages, the yugas, basically saying that his relevance never, ever fades. For believers, this isn't just some old poem. It is a living, breathing link to a power that exists outside of time.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, what are the big things to take away? Well, the Hanuman Chalisa is really a vivid portrait of divine power, a masterclass in selfless devotion, a real source of spiritual protection for believers, and, no question, a cultural touchstone that connects millions of people to this shared heritage of faith.
And that really leaves us with one final thought to chew on. In a world that is always changing, the hymns focus on unwavering strength, on selfless service, and on the power of faith. It seems to offer this kind of timeless anchor. It really makes you think about that universal human need for heroes who embody the absolute best of loyalty and courage, a need that this ancient anthem somehow continues to meet.